my name is Kaikun6 and I'm here to do another playlist story episode for you guys. I have been wanting to do this episode for a long time, as I have been saying almost every single video so far for the past, month and a half. And I haven't been really listening to music because ever since I've been occupying myself with writing, which I finally got done as of today as I'm recording, which is Wednesday morning, I'm assuming. And then plus I've been trying to keep this small room organized, and I found some ways how to organize it, and then it just went to disaster, honestly. So now I gotta go work on that as soon as I'm done with the diamond art painting that I'm still working on for my mother-in-law for her Christmas gift. So yeah, anyway, so that's basically I wanted to tell you guys before I start rambling on for other stuff. So let's start this episode. So as you can see by the title of this video, it is Violet Hill by Coldplay. I remember listening to this song a lot in high school. I don't remember how many times I had to replay it, and then it got I started hearing it a lot more often as time passed by, especially after high school. And especially since I was listening a lot with my brother and my sister a lot, I felt like we heard it on the radio so often, and so we kind of vibed to it whenever we actually listened to it. And it was either on our way to the movie theaters or somewhere else, or if not, on the way back home from wherever we were doing together and stuff like that. So yeah, and it's one of those days where it's this, for me, I feel the song just all of a sudden I woke up and this song was playing immediately straight to my head, and I was just wondering why. And of course this memory attached to it that I'm about to talk to you guys about in a minute, where I'm okay, maybe my brain is telling me that I need to actually talk about this memory, and then hopefully this song won't be able to replay it ever again in my brain until later on. So not only am I getting recurring dreams, which I have been keeping that in check by writing a lot, but mainly it's just been music playing in my head as soon as I wake up. And there's 2 songs right now that that were playing on top of my head so far for a whole week that were playing, and it was this song and then another song which is called You Know Me by Tasty. And so I'll talk about a memory that's attached to that song in a different video, so let's go talk about this memory that's attached to the song. So yeah, so Violet Hill by Coldplay, and I have my notes with me so that way I can talk about it. And yeah, so I could keep it in order, because when I was thinking about what happened during that time, because I felt a lot of things happened when I first moved to Texas back in 2018, and then I ended up getting my first job around that time, and then I stuck around to it for a few months, and then I ended up quitting. And this was all before I got married, and then my dad passing away in 2020, all in the same year. And so it's just been hectic. So I've been dealing with how to process all this, I guess, especially since I was moving to Texas and stuff like that. And then I thought my work environment was actually perfect, where I was working at, which was the Amazon warehouse in Garland at the time. And I made a lot of really great coworkers. There were amazing people, and I think I know who, and you guys know who you are, basically. But the one that I am going to talk about, this one, I felt I never really talked about this experience much. The only one that knows in full detail, of course, is just my husband, and then my best friend, Choji. Because I remembered him coming to pick me up one day from work, because I think Blake was actually I don't know, I think he was working at the time, and then it was not in the same schedule, and then finally one way or another Amazon heard my plea, ended up switching my schedule, and then that was when I felt that was the catalyst to what happened. So I remember I told this to Choji about this incident, and so he told me really great advice how to handle it. And then I went to go handle it, and I felt it got better, and then it got worse, and then it got even worse, and then it got better as soon as I decided to quit Amazon, to be honest, because a lot has happened during that time, and it was just mainly my mental health was going down, and it was because my brother-in-law and this and that. So yeah, so anyway, so I'm gonna start going through my notes. So I wrote down his real name on here, and I'm not gonna say his real name because apparently a lot of my old coworkers know who this guy is that I'm gonna be talking about. And so I'm gonna call him AB, which is like short for Amazon buddy, because that's what he really was. Like, he was an actual Amazon buddy. So yeah, I wrote down that I met him on Amazon. So there was this day. I don't remember what really happened, but I think it is a little bit of a TMI for you guys. But I think we're all friends here at this point. That I'd rather be really honest with everybody, and of course to myself, because I'll feel like if I lie, I feel like, oh, I'm just gonna basically like regret not telling the truth after. So, you know, I'd rather just tell you guys. So it was like, I want to say it was like a Thursday or a Friday. I remember it was like almost like the start of my week, basically, because I remember I was working like from all weekends, and then for the rest of the week I wasn't working. And so that was like one of my schedules at the time at Amazon. And and certain days I worked with certain people, especially where the group of women that I was working with. And so like I felt like one day I had like all of them, and then the other day I had certain people, and then another day was like other people, basically. So it was kind of like a mixed type of thing. So yeah, so anyway, so on this day I had bubble guts, and that will give you like an image on it. So I basically was driving on my way to work. I had the Jeep at the time, and I was not feeling good. I didn't know what happened. All I remember was I was halfway there to going to work, and I had to circle back around because I think I shat myself. And I think I did because I remembered I started smelling something, and then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to go clean up this car and everything. So I remembered I drove back home, and I ended up like taking a shower, putting on clean clothes, everything. I was like trying to make sure I was trying to be clean and everything. And then I ended up cleaning the driver's seat a lot of times. I remember I used wipes, I used spray, I even used disinfectant. I even did like I used like an all-purpose cleaner just to clean the seats, just in case like if it like really seeped into the seat. And then I ended up laying down a towel so that way, because it didn't dry quickly enough for me to head to work. And so I ended up just laying a thick towel on, letting it kind of like soak, I would say, and then dry off. I'm not sure. But all I know is that I was worried that I was going to end up having like a stain or something from all the cleaning solutions that I had on my butt. But luckily, no. So I ended up heading back to work. I already knew that I was going to be late. And so once I arrived there, one of my supervisors, which I want to call him by his nickname because everybody knows who this guy is, and it's like a majority of people liked him and a majority of people did not like him. For me, I really liked him because he was like very, very nice and stuff like that. So and he made sure like I was like basically like what do you call it, like I was like an extra hand to help out. So in case of like he needed me to work on like his part of the workplace, I was just right there. So basically that's what I did. And so so yeah, so my supervisor, I'm gonna call him Tony, he basically was just like, hey, what are you doing, why are you late? And I told him what happened. I literally told him the truth, and he's like, okay, that's too much information, but like, sure, okay, we're gonna put you on my group. And so I ended up working over there where I met AB. And so basically, so I showed up, and then I was like, okay, I don't know anybody in this aisle like at all. But during that time, I heard rumors about AB and this certain coworker that they were sleeping around with each other, and it turned out to be true. But it turned out that she was also sleeping with Tony. So so word got out somehow to like management, and so they had to let her go. And it was kind of fucked up because she was actually a good worker. We needed her and stuff like that, but they made the unanimous decision of getting rid of her, and then they kept AB and Tony on the basically the workplace. So yeah, So I wrote down, yeah, I came to work one day, and as punishment, and it was true, it's kind of like punishment because I wanted to work on my aisle, but he said, no, everybody is full there. We need you to work on this aisle. But after lunch, you can go back to your regular aisle. And I was like, oh, really? And then like 10 minutes later, as I was getting to know my work buddy, which was AB, he he came back saying, yeah, no, we're going to need you to stay in this aisle for the rest of the day, but tomorrow or whenever you're scheduled for next time, you're going to be going to your regular aisle. And I was like, all right, cool. So that's what happened. So yeah, so I ended up talking to AB, and like we got along really, really well. Like he was just like wondering where I was from, and I told him, and then we were trying to basically introduce ourselves to each other. And as usual, I always get the same question, like, okay, like, are you from Texas? And usually I'm like, no, I'm from California. And then so that actually sparked an interest of him talking to me about like, okay, so like, what did you do in California? And I would tell him that I was born and raised there, blah, 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 the usual stuff, right? And so after that, we really hit it off. That's what I wrote down on here. And then I remember like I was working on that aisle for a little bit, and then next thing you know, like the following day, I ended up basically working back into my regular area, and I guess like my aisle needed so much help during that day, I would say. And then he showed up, and he started like working as like the guy that gives me the boxes, like being on the assembly line. And he was just like, hey, I remember you. And I was like, hey, what's up? And then he's like, oh, so they put you to scan, huh? And I was like, I'm always scanning here. And so he decided like, okay, I'm gonna go like basically help you. And then so whenever he had like a little small break from like being on the assembly line, he would come and talk to me while I'm scanning boxes. And then we hit it off really well from there. And then one day, like I think the manager at the time was Brad, I think. He basically told us like, hey, like we're gonna be switching schedules for this upcoming so-and-so day, and so we're gonna have like we're gonna switch basically everything for everybody. And I was just like, all right, cool. I was just like, this is perfect, because that way I don't have to rely on somebody else to give me a ride and stuff like that. Because at that time, me and my husband's work schedules were very different. And luckily, my best friend, Choji, was there to take me to work sometimes. So I basically told everybody like, oh, I'm going to be switching schedules. So it looks like me and Blake, we're going to be sharing the car. And then it's like, all right, cool. And then that day came where I had to start my new schedule. And then I heard rumors about like, supposedly the girl that AB slept with came back, and like she, worked on a different aisle than I was, but I just knew that she was nearby where I was working at. And then next thing you know, AB showed up, and I thought, okay, maybe I thought his schedule changed for some reason. No, like he purposely said, hey, I wanted to get the schedule. And I was just like, oh, like I wonder why. And so later on I found out that he had a daughter, and he's been having like baby mama issues from what he told me. So they're on a visitor, like they were basically co-parenting for this poor little girl and stuff like that. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. But then I thought, well, I honestly thought there was always other underlying issues and stuff like that, so I never really pressed them for that. And so that's what happened. So yeah, so once he found out where I was at, he decided like, hey, Tony, I want to go work on this aisle over here. And he's like, hey, fine by me, like we're gonna have to go switch with someone else from that aisle so that we can be here. And so he was like, all right, cool. And then like at that time, it was either I was scanning boxes or I was in the assembly line, because I really needed a break from like scanning sometimes, or not just doing whatever I was trying to do. And then when it was my turn to be on the assembly line, AB showed up, and he was just like right across from me, and we were just talking and everything, but mainly I was just like vibing to the music I was playing. Of course, it was Limp Bizkit. And at that time, I was like fixated on Gold Cobra, the album. And so I remember I was listening to that album on repeat and everything. And then later on, I made a playlist of nothing but Limp Bizkit songs, and then so we were kind of like vibing to that, I would say, but it was just mainly like, okay, why do they sound familiar? And I told him about it, and then he was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I've only ever known for their one album, and I just said, I know. Everybody, I felt like only listens to either one or two albums from there, and then after that, it's just like they've disappeared from their playlist or something like that. But yeah, so I was trying to read like what other notes I had. So after that, like, me and him hit it off, and I felt like things were kind of normal from there, right? Like, we were just chilling, we were vibing, and then he wanted to like listen to Limp Bizkit more, so I guess we can bond more. And I said, dude, I'm willing to like listen to your type of music. And so he said like he was kind of boring. He was just like, oh, I like hip hop and rap and this and that. And I was just like, oh, are you into grime? And basically I was just like basically trying to like get some genres for myself to listen to, so that way I can vibe with him also. But he was just like mainly fixated on like trying to, I guess, like get on my playlist. And I think I remember at one point when we were like trying to clean up the aisles when we were done for the day, like he came over to the other side of the assembly to stand next to me, and I was showing him like my Spotify playlist that it wasn't like really updated at the time, so I just said I was showing him this. And so he was just like, all right, cool, like I'm gonna listen to that. And I was like, hey, for sure. And we were allowed to listen to music, but not that very loud when you're working, so I was pretty fine with that. And so we were kind of hitting it off well, and I don't know, I just felt like he was like really cool, and I wanted to get to know him more. So I started like vibing more with like music and stuff like that. And then he just started kind of like, oh my god, I've never gotten along with another female like this before, especially like just being, kind of like friends. And I just said, yeah, I told him like I've always had guy friends. It was rare for me to ever have girlfriends, and if I did, they were very special, because I felt like simple girls that, like, I remembered whenever I brought up like, kind of like Evie and all those group of friends that I used to be friends with, they were very like, they always liked to fight a lot. They were always jealous of each other or something like that. It was just so messed up, honestly. But yeah, anyway, so I told him about that, and he's like, all right, cool. I guess like he took that into consideration. I wasn't entirely sure, but all I know is that things changed from that day. I remembered, well, actually, two things happened where it became kind of like also more of the catalyst of like what really happened from there. So one day, I think none of my girlfriends were there at that time, like the group of women that I would like sit and eat lunch with or talk to whenever I'm working. I don't remember if anyone showed up late or they were not going to be there at all. But I remember one of them actually ended up going to another aisle, so that way they can work somewhere else. But anyway, I think I brought up this guy before, and his name is Light, and that was from a previous episode, which was Rolling by Limp Bizkit. And so Light basically was scheduled in the same day that I was during that time, and was just like, hey, like, I'm gonna be scanning for you. And I was just like, all right, cool, like I'm fine with them. And then I remember like I turned my back around, and I could see AB's face, kind of like, okay, what's going on here? Like, does she really know this dude and all that stuff? And then so he started becoming a little bit too friendly, I would say. He started talking to him more. He was trying to get to know him also. And then my friend Light was like, okay, what's going on with this dude? And I just like, I don't know. I just started being friends with him, and then all of a sudden he just wants to like, I guess be friends with you or something. And he's just like, I don't mind, but it's just like, he kind of gave me like a creepy vibe. And I was like, really? Like, I didn't sense that. He's like, try to get to know him more and you'll see. And I was just like, okay. Like, I have been vibing with this dude for a while. So yeah. So I believed what happened was like I started like getting my attention more to Light, because he kept scanning boxes in my aisle, and I kept giving it to him from the assembly line and stuff like that. And so I don't know if he felt jealous. And at one time, Light came to work while I was like, I guess like I was already with my friends in the workplace and stuff like that. I think we were having like a morning coffee or something, but it was like before our shift started. So we all like were talking and just like basically trying to enjoy the little peace that we have before we ended up going to work. And then Light came over to my table and was just like, hey dude, like you need to be careful for today. And I just said, what happened? And it's like AB was starting to fight with me in the parking lot. And I was like, what the fuck, really? He was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, sure, like I'll go talk to him. So I ended up talking to him, and he said that like he was concerned that maybe Light was going to like do something to me, and that's why he was trying to protect me, quote unquote. I'm going like this. I was just like, okay, that's weird. And then so slowly but surely, after that day, he started getting a little bit creepy. Like there were days where some of my friends that I have made on Amazon, when they were scheduled to be in the same schedule as me, they did their best to stay away from this dude. And not only because they were just like really busy and they needed to concentrate on work and then them going home, but it was just like something about him gave him like this weird vibe, you know? And I felt like the only one that really like really stood up to him was Light. And so I felt like, okay, so what should I do from here? So what I wrote down here for more notes is like, yeah, he slowly started to creep out everybody. And he was actually asking some of my coworkers where I was at during work. Like if I wasn't on the assembly line, he wanted to know which aisle I was in, like for scanning boxes, so that way he could be the person to give me boxes. And my coworkers didn't like that. They were like, okay, well then, if we see her, we'll let you know. They were really protecting me, you guys. Like, they were really, really wonderful coworkers for that. And even the male coworkers that I ended up having, also, they protected me. And I want to say thank you to them too, because they really like knew how uncomfortable I was during that time, and they did whatever they could to be like, hey, we really need you over here. And so they sent me over there, and then that pissed off AB, but it didn't really matter. We needed to get things done anyway for that day. So yeah, and then I wrote down, yeah, I talked about this already. So this is where like my brain was scrambled and I couldn't put these thoughts in order. But like I remembered one time I was like already scanning boxes, and I was with my friend Light, and then AB showed up and was like, hey, I'm gonna help you scan boxes. And Light was like, oh no, okay, what is he gonna do for this time? And so he was like, hey dude, do you think you could like come to this other aisle? I'll be able to give you some box. And he's like, yeah, sure, but I want to go talk to, you know, to this person here. And I was just like, fuck, okay. And then I was like, you know what, like maybe today will not be that bad or something. And so we were vibing a Limp Bizkit again, and then something happened with my playlist. It played like K-pop. And then he was just like, oh, I've never heard this before. And I was just like, yeah, I don't think you'll get into it. Like, this is just something that I got into back in 2009 with my sister. And so this is like something like a very cherished memories that I have with my sister, where I was listening to K-pop with her all the time. And then he's like, and then that was when it got creepier, right? Like, he was like, okay, I'm interested in K-pop. And I was just like, okay, this is the type of dude that just listens to hip-hop and rap all the time, and rarely any new metal or prog metal, you know? So I was like, okay, sure. And so I ended up showing him some songs of K-pop, and for some reason he ended up liking it. So I was just like, okay, that's weird. But yeah. So then he started getting a little bit more personal. Like, he started talking about his daughter and the baby mama. And then, yeah, I already talked about the coworker. And, yeah. And then this is the one that I felt like I wish there was more people that witnessed this day. But like I said, sadly, our schedules was very different during that day. So it was already lunch, and I remember we had like a very fairly large lunch. And I think like I ended up grabbing like my stuff from a locker, and I was heating up my food, and all I heard was like, hey Jenny, do you think we could go outside? And I was just like, yeah, sure, just hold on, let me go get my lunch. And then like once I got done heating my lunch, he gave me the warning saying like, dude, we cannot go outside. And I just said, why not? It's like, he's out there. And I was like, who's out there? AB. And I'm like, oh, okay, so let's just stay in here. And so Light and I, we ended up having a lunch, and then like slowly but surely all of my girls started showing up, and they were like, hey, like we never thought you'll eat with us. And it's like, oh, I'm usually outside smoking, you know, but like I wanted to talk to Jenny for a little bit and see what's going on. And they were like, what's going on? And so I basically finally told them about basically what happened with AB and him and this and that. And they were like, oh, don't worry, girl, we got you. Well, then I felt like they did got me, and then all of a sudden it just took us by surprise, because we were like, okay, how are we gonna handle this, even though we couldn't be able to handle it that well because we didn't want to start a scene, right? So slowly but surely all of the girls went to go get lunch, and it was just a couple of the girls and then Light and myself. And then AB showed up out of nowhere, and he was just like, hey, like, do you think anybody, can I bum for, like, you know, something for lunch, because I am hungry. And I remembered I packed like an extra lunch for somebody just in case, but they didn't show up, so I ended up giving him that extra lunch. And what was so creepy about it was, like, Light saw it, and I definitely was just like shocked, and I did not know how to react to it. All I remember was I was like, okay, here you go. I am going to have myself another utensil. So while I was eating lunch, and I ended up like placing my fork somewhere like on a clean napkin on the table, for some reason it made him grab that fork and eat the food that I was sharing him with my fork. And that freaked me out. It really did, because I've never had that happen before, ever. And so I felt like, what do I do? And then Light was like, I'll be right back, I'm gonna go bring you a fork. And I was just like, okay. So he gave me the fork, and I ended up grabbing the fork, and I was like basically like holding on to it like dear life, basically. And I was eating it up until lunch was over. And I told that incident to, you know, my husband, and my husband was like, he's like, oh, you know, maybe it's like a little small prank. Maybe he was trying to like prank you or something. I was just like, I don't know. This is getting all weird. I remember telling Choji about this at one point, and then he was just like, yeah, you need to do something about this. This is getting like really weird. Because if anybody took any utensil that I was using to eat, I'm just going to assume that they're like freaks or something like that. And I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do? So the day came where I felt like a lot of shit was happening at work, right? And so after that day, I decided to really like, I want to handle the situation on my own, but then I couldn't deal with it on my own. I felt like it got worse. So I ended up switching like different to different lanes, and even when I was scanning boxes, or even like just helping out on the conveyor belt, like it just got worse, because he was always there nearby and always wanted to talk to me, and I felt creeped out, and I was like, okay, this is not friendly anymore. This is not like, I don't know what's going on. I just felt very, very off, and I had no idea like how to handle it. So I remember one time Tony gave me an opportunity to go work in a different department altogether, and I took it upon myself to go get it. So, and the weird part was that when I went to that department, I was like scanning boxes, of course, but they were coming out of the truck, and so I was just standing there and scanning. The girl that AB was sleeping with was right across from me, and so I went to go talk to her, and I told her about my concerns about this guy, because like she was still like talking to him in a way, and so she was just like, oh, I've never had that experience before. I don't know how to tell you or how to work it. And I was just like, well, you are like one of his closest friends. Can you tell her to back off? And so she's like, yeah, sure. The following week, it got a little bit better from there. But I just remembered something about, like, you know what? Like, my mental health is not really ready for, like, another episode of his shenanigans and stuff like that. And so I decided to, basically, like, I'm gonna go quit this job. I really will. I felt like a lot of stuff was happening at home, and then I didn't want for it to affect me at work. And then I made the decision I'm gonna quit Amazon anyway. So I ended up quitting. And I remembered one of my other coworkers. She's a very, very lovely woman. She, messaged me out of nowhere saying like, hey, AB is asking about you, and he was wondering why you didn't show up to work today. And I told her, I was like, I quit. I cannot handle this job anymore, so I have to quit. And so she was like, okay, let me go pass the message on. And then from there, I haven't heard from her since that much. It was just like mainly like, oh, he's asking about you, and what kind of message should I relay. And then so once he found out that I quit, I think he threw the biggest tantrum that I have ever heard in my life when it comes to like, you know, is like throwing stuff in the warehouse, and it led to him almost getting fired. It was just like, I don't know how to explain it more than that. Like, that coworker told me that she witnessed him just throwing stuff around. He basically just like went up to Tony and just said, I quit, and then just walked out. And I was like, that is fucking crazy. And ever since then, all of my female at the time now, like my female ex-coworkers, they were like, oh, we haven't seen him that much, or blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I just didn't know how to handle this situation, because I thought that if I handle it on my own, it was going to be okay. And then I reached out for help, which was like that woman that he slept with at the time and was sleeping with Tony too. I thought it was going to get worse, and it kind of did. So I just said, okay, I just didn't know how else to handle it. I think I even made an anonymous report to HR, and that didn't even help either, because all they did was they sent him to a different aisle. And then since, work gets really busy around that time, or like a certain time, and they really needed him to where I was at. So I was just like, crap. Okay, so then they did their best to help. And so I felt like it was a lot better for me anyway to quit Amazon, just because of like my brother-in-law and so many things were going on at home. I was just like, I couldn't handle it no more. And so I decided, yeah, I'm going to quit. And then luckily he never tried to reach out to me or anything. I was so happy about that, because my Facebook is kind of easy to find, even though right now it's been privatized since then. But if anybody was trying to find me, I bet somehow, one way or another, I could be found in there. And so luckily, no, only Light and only a few of my ex-coworkers decided to be friends with me, and this and that. And so yeah, it was just a little bit interesting. And like I said, I remember a few of my coworkers knew about this guy, and they don't like really talk to him or anything like that. I don't even know if he went back to working with Amazon or not. But all I know is that the last few days that I was there, they were like, yeah, you got to do something about this. This is so creepy. And like, we just didn't know how to handle it. And then like, when I did make that report to HR, it got better, and then it got worse. And I just told myself, like, I don't know how to handle it even more than I have already am. And even with me trying to switch to other departments did not help, because as soon as he heard any wind of me going somewhere else, it's like he wanted to follow after me. And I was just like, no, I'm not going to do this no more. And then, like I said, like Light was kind of like helping me out in that way. And he did his best. He really did. He just was like, I just didn't know how you're doing it. And you should have like not let him on or anything. I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, what do you mean by let him on? It's like, probably he thought that he had a chance to be in bed with you. And I was like, bro, I've been telling him that I have been engaged for such a long time, and I've been with this man for so many years, and this and that. And it's like, well, it might have been his kink, and I was just like, I do not know about that. Anyway, all I know is that I'm glad that chapter is over, and I feel like, if this song for some reason plays in my head or shows up on my playlist, I'm just gonna laugh about it, because it was such a weird time for me during when I was like freshly new to Texas, and just making friends on Amazon, and then creating other friends too, and just, I don't know, it was just so weird. That's all I can tell you. But all I know is that I'm just glad that none of my ex-coworkers have to deal with him anymore. They can just rest easily with whatever jobs there are at right now. Like, I have been trying to keep I've been trying to keep up with everything, but it's just been so hard now that the holidays are here. And so I'm still kind of like on vacation mode. Like I'm still kind of like relaxed. I'm still chill. I don't want to do nothing. And then, at the same time, I'm over here still doing chores and this and that, and then trying to keep everything clean and this and that. But who knows? But I was just like, okay, I need to do something. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna end this episode here. Yeah, this was like a very weird episode to talk about, because I was just like, alright, well, I have been meaning to make a playlist story video for such a long time, excuse me. And then I guess like my brain was just like, hey, I'm gonna be playing a song when you first wake up, and then instantly a memory is gonna come to my mind and be like, hey, you need to talk about this. And finally, I feel like after me talking about it, hopefully my brain will let me rest easy. So now I need to talk about the other song, which hopefully that will be next episode, which is You Know Me by Tasty. So I am not sure why those two songs popped up, but I felt like I have been wanting to like talk about like either people I still know, they're still my friends, or like people that I don't talk to anymore. And maybe it's just like some memories, or like something, I don't know. Probably like maybe like I haven't listened to a song in a long time. Maybe that's why it's been playing in my brain, or I don't know. I don't know, you guys. All I know is that I'm kind of glad that I'm able to talk about it, and hopefully I can move on from it. And then, like I said, I'm gonna reflect on it for us, like from today, and then be like, okay, that part of that chapter of my life is over, and it was funny, this and that. So yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna go now. So hopefully you guys have a lovely day and a lovely week, and I'll see you guys next week. All right, bye everyone.